Bienvenidos, amigos, and welcome back to a new episode of the More Life Diaries podcast. And on this week's episode, we asked you guys what you wanted to know about our life here in Mexico. So we got a few very good questions we're going to be covering, one of which is about our recent trip to the hospital, recent and only trip. Our second one is about a school that our kids are going to. And then we're also going to be covering a few things here and there that have happened to us in the last week. So stay tuned for that. But first, please, folks, if you do like the content, hit the like button, definitely hit the subscribe button, and hit up the comment section if you do have any questions. And if you'd like to support the channel, go to buymeacoffee.com/morelifediaries. Any donations are appreciated. And finally, if you could please go to morelifediaries.com, sign up for the newsletter. We're sending a newsletter on every single week. Let's get into it.
What is More Life Diaries? Reflections of the past. Life in the moment. Manifestations of the future. This is our journey. The More Life Diaries podcast.
So to start off this week's podcast, we have some very, very exciting news for us, but perhaps for you guys as well. And it's that we finally completed our temporary residency.
Yay!
Paperwork, got our cards, got everything. So we're officially, I guess, immigrants for the next year, and then we'll renew it, and then we'll get a 3-year renewal afterwards. So we're going to touch on that whole process a little bit, but just kind of a weight off our shoulders that we finally got everything done. The kids, we have, our Mexican IDs. Yeah.
I was holding
really good pictures.
the best pictures. Maybe I'll include that in the newsletter.
Yeah, just like the mug shots of each one of us.
We somehow all have really intense parts.
And the process wasn't without some bumps in the road. You want to touch on that a little bit, since you're the one mostly dealing with it?
Where do I begin? Okay, we're not going to go into the details of how exactly you get visas and all that stuff, because we're not, obviously it was so difficult for us. We're not the experts. We went through Sonia Diaz, www.soniadiaz.com. Amazing lawyers, amazing support. Go to that website. There's tons of information. Yeah, affordable. There's even other than visas, there's just like insurance information and that type of stuff on there. And she is super knowledgeable and her team. Yeah, we're not the experts. We're not going to pretend to be. We're just going to share our experience. And so to sum it up, they love paperwork here.
Yeah.
They love it. Some paperwork. And they are extremely picky about everything being exact. And that's what took us so long. So the process starts back in Canada. You apply at the consulate, authentication, legalization. Then you come here and then you have to present that. But before you present it, you need to get it translated. But I missed a part. So for me, I spent so much time, like I heard that they were really picky and everything had to be exact. I spent so much time looking over everyone's names, everyone's information, because I have the most simple short name in the family. And that's where I overlooked that I have my middle initial on every document except my passport. And that passport needed to match some other documents in order for me to get my temporary residency. And it didn't. So that's what the delay was. I had to go to the consulate here, get them to make some sort of approval for me, then bring it back to the immigration. And that took forever. And then I got finished, but the problem was then with the kids and the translation. And we went through 2 translators. I think we did 7 revisions altogether, maybe 8 between the 2 translators.
And probably like 3 or 4 visits to the immigration office to tell us that, oh, like, no, this little box isn't where it should be. Like a lot of small things, and many, many hours spent at the immigration office. And they work in slow motion, like at that specific office. I don't know if it's everywhere the same, but
I don't know what they're doing back there.
There's like 3 or 4 people waiting, and it takes like 3 hours to get anything done.
They'll take your payment, they'll approve you, and then they're like, okay, let's go sit down for a minute. And that minute's like an hour. And I'm like, what are you doing back there? I still don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, so just the to get the birth certificate translated, that took 6 or 7 revisions between 2 lawyers, like
2 translators.
2 translators, and cost twice the amount, and plus some that we should have been paying. So, I mean, all of this to say that it was a lengthy process for some of us. Mine was super simple, no issues at all, very straightforward. And then Kathleen's was a name issue. So obviously be aware of that. If you are coming here, make sure that your name matches everywhere, that your signatures are matching on every document.
They're very picky about it. It's like you have to sign, and then once someone tells me that, passport. Sign exactly the same way you did on this document, I cannot do it. Like for the life of me, I'm like, I don't know how to do this.
Scribbling.
They look at me too, like, what is that? Yeah. Like, I don't know. It's too much pressure.
And definitely any documents you need to get translated need to be translated as is, every small
box.
Detail.
If the box is empty, they still need to put it there.
If it says box and there's a box, it needs to say box in Espanol with the box beside it. Like
everything, every little thing, they will turn you around. And that's what took so long, because basically we had an appointment originally for the 3, me and the 2 children, to get everything done at once, but it ended up being me going back, then 1 child, and then another child, plus a couple rejections within those things. So that's like booking those appointments and, just spending the day there. Don't even get me started on the off. Like you're outside, you're waiting outside. It's like extremely hot. There's nothing around for you. No washroom.
Yeah.
It sucks.
It sucks.
It sucks.
But we're grateful that we finally got it. It feels good. It's a weight lifted off our shoulders. Obviously, our 6 was coming up to 6 months.
We were so many rejections. I'm like, we might overstay our welcome here. So just, what Mark said, make sure everything is exactly how it is. Like when the person, whoever gets it translated, because it's usually just some person that they either deliver it to you, pick it up outside their other place of employment, that you are checking every little thing before you like fully accept it or walk away, or or especially before you go into that appointment, because I mean, there's just
a lot of errors.
A lot of errors.
The 7th time, like we can just generalize that it's a lot of errors. Some shortcuts were taken.
I got to the point where I was like, screenshot me that document, because I'm not going through this anymore. But that's done, thankfully. And just a lot of paperwork, but we got it.
And that's done, thankfully.
And through that, we were then able to open a bank account, which is also a lot of paperwork. And overall, a simple process. But I sat down. I was like, I want to open a bank account. He's like, do you got 15 minutes? Because that's how much time we need. I'm like, sure, I got 15 minutes. He's at Starbucks waiting for me with the kids. It was 2 hours. It was easily 2 hours.
I think over 2 hours that we were there, and that like at an hour and a half, I just let the kids run into the bank so that they can be like, okay, maybe we need to rush a little bit.
No, he didn't pick up on that.
So
0.
Opening a bank, book a nice chunk of time for you to go open up a bank and go to the immigration office, because they are lengthy processes.
For the bank, which I didn't do because I didn't know, there's so much paperwork you have to sign, and it's already taking a long time. And then I paused for a minute just to skim over the page I was signing. And he's like, keep going. Like, you have a lot of papers to sign. So if I had actually taken the time to read things, It would have been 3 hours.
Yeah.
And I didn't get to read anything. I don't like, they email it to you after, but like I could have been signing over my firstborn for all I know. Like,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
And then they called me back the next day to sign another piece of paper, which was the weirdest part.
Yeah. You want to touch on that?
So yeah, we went into, I think he's like, just come in. It's going to be really quick. You're just going to sign one paper. I'm like, okay. So I just assumed I had missed something. Then I'm reading this paper and it's a description of the outside of our apartment.
Like walls are pink, the upstairs is wood. Like they're so specific.
And I was reading it.
Detail.
I look up, I'm like, this is my home. And he's like, yeah, it's your home. He's like, I put it in Google Maps. We have to make sure it's real.
Yeah. So I guess crazy. Because we're foreign here, like they have to send someone to verify that the address is real where you're staying. And then they just write a description on the place that you're staying. Just kind of weird too. Like
I gave you my bank account and all. You know how much money I made.
Also, like you're sending someone here.
No, he Google mapped it. He's like, if it didn't come up on Google Map, we would have had to go there. I'm like, that's so weird. It's really weird.
Yeah.
But and I don't know why if he Google mapped it, he couldn't have done it while I was there. I think that would have been less weird if he's like, I'm just gonna check.
Yeah, because they've done that before. Well, like when we got internet with Izzy, the internet provider here, they Google mapped like our place to make sure that.
Well, so their delivery
technician could like find it. Yeah,
it's less weird if you do it.
Just some new stuff to us. For some new immigrants. Yeah.
And if you're interested for bank account, temporary residency, passport, and a bill with your address on it so that they can look it up like creepy creeps and write a description on your paperwork.
Moving on. So we had asked you guys to let us know like what you want to know about our life here living in Mexico. And something that often comes up is the health care system here. Now, generally, we try to stay away from the healthcare system as much as we can in Toronto as well as in Mexico. We did have to go see a doctor because Callie, although he was like feeling fine, he got a bug, he got over it, but he still had a really nasty cough, like coming from what sounded like deep down in his lungs. So he had a really nasty cough. So finally, Kathleen decided to go see a doctor. And we were actually very happy and pleasantly surprised with the experience of going to see a doctor here versus what we had experienced almost every time we had gone to see a doctor back home in Toronto. So do you want to go through that process a little bit?
Yeah. So first of all, it's extremely easy. Once I found the doctor, I mean, I had a friend who gave me his name. I checked out, he has a Facebook page. I was like, okay, this guy seems okay. Booked it, super easy online. You just, find a time slot that you want and you click it. There was something available, like lots of stuff available for the next day. So in terms of getting an appointment, it wasn't like I had to book and wait 6 weeks. There was something available within that week. So went there, the wait in the waiting room, which is for us like unheard of to get in that quickly. It was like maybe 5 minutes. Then we were in. And he actually spent a lot of time with us, which is, again, something not used to. He said, okay, I'm not going to look at your son right now because of his age. He's just going to fight. Like he was already good with the kids. Like let him like play around, get comfortable around me, and then I'll take a look at him. But we talked about, just because obviously it's the first time we're seeing this doctor, just, his health history, his life history. When was he born? How old is he? Like, what's he eating? All these kinds of things. And what are his symptoms? And he kind of got into that. And then he did like a little checkup and all that kind of stuff. And I think what stood out to me is, first of all, he went into deep of like, okay, what are his symptoms? Where do you live? And then right away he was like, okay, like very dusty, like that could be part of it because it was a coughing issue. And he gave me first a list of non-pharmaceutical remedies that I could do, which I was already doing most of those. But he's like, if it persists and you want to, you can take, whatever medications. And he like gave me some names. And then he was typing for a long time on the computer, which was again, like they do type on the computer back home, whatever, but it was like a while. And he printed out this beautiful like summary sheet on this like really nice paper of everything we went over, all the details, like from the checkup, his weight, his height, everything else. And then exactly what the symptoms were, explaining things and what to do if it persists. And then, like normally if you don't catch all of that in a doctor's appointment back home, if you're not taking those notes, like that's it.
There's no like reference, nothing for you to reference really.
Yeah, I mean, I could just take this home. It was great. Like, you know, the doctor's appointment was in 100% Spanish. So if I, wasn't sure of anything, I could obviously have the opportunity to look it up at home.
Yeah, and we were really impressed by the details and like the care and also the attention to details that he was receiving based on like where we lived, like what the external factors could be that are making, his cough not go away. Like clearly he was not sick anymore. It was just a nasty cough that was lingering. And we ended up not having to give him anything, thankfully. Yeah. But just the overall care and the detail, it wasn't costly by any means. It was
about $40 Canadian.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, we don't pay back home directly, but then you also feel like you're waiting, like most of the time you're just waiting in the waiting room, and then they're kind of rushing you out the door when you're in there. So it was nice. Like I was like, wow, this is like, he was like, we can talk all day almost. All the questions you want, like, and like sat there and patiently answered them. So it was different.
And, we've had a friend's mom had to go to the emergency room as well, and she kind of had, I guess, a different experience. Not that we know in depth what happened, but we know that the care that she got just for some split her head open a little bit, and they basically just put a little glue on it to glue it back together, and that was very costly. That was over in Sayulita, so I'm not sure if it was because it was in Sayulita. There's only one hospital. They kind of have like a monopoly type thing. They probably see a lot of tourists that have insurance, so they're taking advantage of that. The healthcare system here is privatized, so they just all run independently. But that, there's multiple factors that go into, the care and how much money you paid for. In our situation, we kind of could have shopped around to maybe find another doctor that's a little bit cheaper if we had found that this one was very expensive, which he wasn't, and he was recommended. So, we're thankful that we had a very good experience, but just be aware, like, do your research. If you are coming here, just kind of look at the nearest hospital and maybe like the factors that could go into.
And based on your personal needs. I know we do get a lot of questions, but like everyone's going to be different. If you need healthcare, if you, likely will need healthcare, that's something to look at. We know that people, they just don't get health insurance here, and they just go for a one-time, blood work, overall checkup. It's $100-something altogether, and that's what they do. They don't.
They just pay like as you get whatever service you need. You get the blood work,
that's
blood
like
panel.
A healthy, health conscious person, relatively young. So, you just have to kind of do your research and figure it out. Again, SoniaDiaz.com there's information about health insurance on there, and different plans. So, and
the second major question that we do get a lot is what we do for the kids' school. So our oldest Bassie is 5.5. We enrolled him into a Montessori that's close to where we live. Again, it was a recommendation from a friend. She sends her kids there as well. So, it's a full Spanish Montessori school. There are other expat or immigrant kids there that do speak English. So they're all kind of learning Spanish at the same rate, which is really good, which we found interesting. And there are Mexican kids in the class as well. So we're really happy with the school he goes to. He seems to be really happy there as well.
Yeah, there's smaller classes. It's Montessori. So obviously that methodology of teaching. And that's kind of in line what we were doing with him before. He wasn't in like a public school. He was on a homeschooling pod. So he was used to smaller classes and this more like child-led learning type thing where it's not just, sitting in a class in a desk all day. And that's just our preference. But there are basically, you can find everything here. There's, the public schools, which I think if you are a temporary resident like us, we're not paying taxes. So if you were to send your children to those schools, you would probably have to arrange some sort of tuition. I'm not sure how much that costs at the public schools for foreigners. And then there's a lot of people who put their kids in private schools, like the American British schools. I think there is a Canadian school out in Bucerias, but those will vary. They're typically more expensive. And there's some nature schools, especially in Bucerias. There's nature schools. And of course, you can find homeschooling pods.
Yeah, literally like anything that you're looking for. If you're coming from Canada or the United States and your kid goes to specific type of school, you'll find one here. However, they're not everywhere. So you might have to relocate to a specific location like Bucerias, where they have a lot more of the holistic type of learning schools.
Yeah. And San Pancho has a nature school as well.
Yeah.
If anyone's interested.
So we're not against at all sending our kids to, a bigger like public school type of thing, but we would really need to look into how they teach the kids, what they're teaching the kids. And for now, we're just really happy where he is. And most importantly, he's really happy. And Callie will be going there as well, probably sometime later this year in the smaller kids class. And yeah, it's just very nice, very small. Everyone knows each other. He's made tons of friends there. So we're definitely really happy with it. And besides that, I had a really, really dusty car. It's been months since I've cleaned my car.
It's dusty here, okay? Like it gets dusty really fast.
Like a couple of centimeters of dust on it. And I get to the car this morning and someone wiped it down for me.
So nice.
So thank you to that very nice man or woman that wiped it down. There are people here, whenever you park somewhere, usually there's like someone with a bucket and they offer to clean your car. And there is one where I do park, but like I didn't ask him to wash it. He wasn't there. Yeah, I haven't seen the person in like at least a week or so. And just get to my car this morning and it's wiped down. So thank you so much. You just saved me a trip to the car wash. If I do see that guy, I'm definitely going to ask him and I'll definitely give him some money because, yeah, it was just a really nice thing. And I was just really surprised. And it just goes to say that like people are so friendly here. Everyone's always looking to help or do something. The last thing we want to talk about is just a video that we're going to be putting out later on this week about it's basically our first video on cost of living in Mexico. We want to kind of do a series on it, if you want to call it that, where we compare prices of certain things versus others. And the first one is Costco edition, because we know y'all love Costco. So we basically went to Costco, did a little grocery run. We're going to be seeing, what that tallies up to, exactly what we bought and the US and Canadian price difference. And then we got someone in Toronto to go see what the price of very specific items are, from electronics to food to clothes. And we're getting the price from a Costco in Toronto, and we're going to be comparing them to the Costco here in Puerto Vallarta. And yeah, I think like myself, just looking at a few items, I was really surprised on how how much more affordable certain things are and how much more expensive other things are. So that will be super interesting. I'm like looking forward to seeing the results, which we haven't put together yet, on what the tally is for the difference in price.
Interesting.
Very
and
interesting.
The food menu items.
And the food menu items. Yeah, I can tell you for sure that I miss my poutine. And Bassie does too. Some good
Yes,
poutine.
every time if they have poutine.
Yeah. All right, guys. So on
we wanted to say one more thing. So last week we were invited so nicely to an expat gathering in Puerto Vallarta at a place called Whiskey Kitchen. So thank you to Bill, who, if you're watching this, Bill, like, thank you for inviting us. We had a great time. And we also met a few other people. And I'm sorry, it's been a week and I'm really bad with names, but I'm going to try it. Roger, Daniel, Victor, and Carrie, I think. Thank you so much for just saying hello and chatting with us. It was great. It was great meeting everyone.
Yeah, for sure.
And for your suggestions. Some of you had suggestions for us. We're going to look into those. And thanks for watching.
Yeah, just a really chill, like expat meetup.
Great
And
fried chicken.
Fried chicken was great. What was the restaurant called?
Whiskey Kitchen.
Whiskey Kitchen, yeah. So shout out to Whiskey Kitchen. Really good fried chicken. And yeah, it was just really nice to get to chat with people and some of you guys that watched the channel. So if you're watching,
thanks.
You guys were wonderful.
Yeah.
On that note, guys, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you have any questions. But most importantly, hit the subscribe button. It helps us keep putting these videos together. And on that note, we are out. This is our journey. More Life Diaries.
Good night.
Peace.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of More Live Diaries podcast. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show wherever you're watching or listening. Again, thank you for tuning in. Until next time, this is our journey. More Live Diaries.